The night was unusually dark. Even the moon hid behind thick clouds, as if afraid to witness what would come. In the village of Umu-Ala, a trail of glowing footsteps appeared on the red earth. Each step pulsed like a living ember, moving forward as if guided by a spirit unseen. Villagers gathered, their faces pale with fear, whispering prayers and clutching talismans, but none dared approach. Nnenna stood at her doorstep, her small heart pounding. 13 years old, quiet yet endlessly curious, she had always asked the questions adults avoided. And tonight, something pulled at her more insistently than ever. The footsteps paused at her doorway, as though waiting for her to follow. A whisper floated through the wind, calling her name. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory, warning her never to step outside after dark, never to chase wandering lights. But Nnenna could not turn away. She felt the weight of a story she had never known, tugging at her soul. If only they knew what I am about to see, she thought, trembling. One cautious step forward, then another, and she was walking alone toward the forest where no child had dared tread for generations. The forest at the edge of Umu-Ala was alive with shadows. Towering trees leaned close together, their branches knitting a canopy that swallowed the stars. Nnenna's footsteps echoed softly, yet the glowing footprints ahead pulsed brighter with each step. Tiny fireflies began forming shapes, almost like ancient symbols etched in the air. The trail split suddenly. One path shimmered with sharp, bright clarity. The other was faint, humble, trembling. Her grandmother's warnings rang in her ears. Spirits test the living, some never return. But curiosity gnawed at her heart. With a deep breath, she chose the faint path. The air grew cooler, thicker, as if the forest itself was testing her courage. Shadows moved independently of the moonlight, and whispers danced around her ears, unintelligible yet urgent. A strange exhilaration rose in her chest, mingled with fear. Nnenna could feel a presence guiding her, as if the footsteps themselves had recognized her. The faint trail seemed alive, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She dared not glance back. The village and safety were already far behind. Every step forward was a step deeper into the unknown. At the heart of the forest, Nnenna saw it, a small shadow sitting atop a stone, legs swinging lazily, but they never touched the ground. The air shimmered around it, like heat rising off the earth, yet coldness prickled her skin. She approached cautiously, eyes fixed on the shadow that did not acknowledge her presence. Suddenly, the shadow dissolved into a swirling mist, revealing a cracked Kaurin necklace lying where the shadow had been. The ground trembled softly, and a whisper floated through the trees. Return what was taken, or the footsteps will choose another. Nnenna recognized the design. She had heard an old village story of Adis, a child who vanished generations ago after mocking a sacred shrine. Fear surged, yet so did determination. She knelt, lifting the necklace with trembling fingers. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The footsteps she had followed, once leading her, now appeared behind her, glowing faintly as if confirming she had taken responsibility. Somewhere deep in the dark, a voice seemed to sigh, waiting, patient but filled with ancient expectation. Nnenna's journey had only begun, and already the forest whispered that she would never be the same again. Emerging from the denser trees at the forest's edge, Nnenna met an old woman unlike anyone she had ever seen. Her eyes were chalk white, her robes tattered, yet flowing as if woven from mist itself. She leaned lightly on a carved staff, and the forest seemed to bow toward her. "You carry what belongs to the past," the woman said, voice soft but commanding. "I am the keeper of lost footsteps, the spirits of children who strayed too far or broke taboos." Nnenna clutched the necklace tightly. The woman explained Adi's story, how her mockery of the ancestral shrine had caused her footsteps to vanish, leaving her spirit wandering in eternal limbo. Nnenna listened, heart tightening. The old woman pointed to Nkyum Hill, distant but looming. The sacred shrine with a necklace must be returned. Fail, and the curse spreads, the woman warned. Nnenna's hands trembled, but she nodded, sensing that the glowing footsteps behind her were urging her forward. The forest, once a place of fear, now seemed to pulse with purpose, guiding her toward destiny. The path up Nkyum Hill was steep, tangled with roots and vines. Glowing footsteps surrounded Nnenna in a protective circle, as if the spirits themselves had chosen her. Mist clung to the trees, swirling around her feet, shaping themselves into faint silhouettes of children watching her progress. Every step was measured. Her breath came in short bursts as the air grew colder and heavier. Distant, rhythmic drums began echoing from somewhere unseen, steady and low, like the heartbeat of the forest. Shadows twisted along the path, some friendly, some menacing, but all reminding her that this journey was not for the faint of heart. The faint footsteps pulsed in her vision, guiding her around pitfalls and roots, forming a pattern she almost understood. A whisper ran through the mist. "Do you dare face what must be faced?" Nnenna tightened her grip on the Kaura necklace, her pulse racing. Somewhere beyond the mist, Nkyum Hill awaited, its shrine cracked and vine-covered, holding the power to free or condemn. Nnenna paused at a clearing where the forest seemed to tighten around her. Roots twisted unnaturally across the path, forming barricades, while the faint footsteps glowed insistently ahead. From the shadows, phantom voices whispered shortcuts to the shrine, offering safety, comfort, and an easier journey. Temptation tugged at her, but something deep inside reminded her of the stories. Spirits always test the living. She clutched the Kaura necklace and stepped carefully along the faint path. The fireflies above coalesced into swirling patterns, illuminating the ancient runes etched into stones along the trail. A shadow darted past, knocking the necklace from her hands. Nnenna's heart leaped. She scrambled to retrieve it, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface just as the shadow vanished into the mist. "Do not stray," a whisper hissed. Her pulse quickened. The forest seemed alive, leaning toward her with every step, testing her courage, humility, and resolve. One wrong move, and she might join the restless spirits forever. Gathering her courage, Nnenna held the necklace tightly and moved forward, aware that the faint trail she followed was not only guiding her, it was watching her. The mist thickened, turning the forest into a world of ghostly shapes and shifting shadows. Suddenly, a small figure emerged, a lost spirit, barely the size of a child, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. It pointed toward the Kaura necklace in Nnenna's hands, pleading silently with gestures that tugged at her heart. The spirit led her to a fallen branch, revealing markings she hadn't noticed before, glowing symbols that mirrored the patterns in the fireflies above. She understood then that the necklace was not just an artifact. It held the story of every lost spirit in Umu-Ala, a key to breaking centuries of wandering and sorrow. A cold whisper rustled through the trees. "One wrong step and you join us." Nnenna felt the weight of the responsibility pressing down on her small shoulders. She adjusted her grip on the necklace, stepping carefully along the faint trail, realizing that this encounter was more than a warning. It was guidance. Every movement now had consequences, and the spirits watched her as closely as she watched them. Ahead, a glowing figure appeared in her path, a spectral animal, its eyes bright and luminous in the darkness. It growled softly, blocking her way, and Nnenna instinctively knelt, bowing her head. The forest held its breath. The spirit studied her for long, tense moments, then shifted aside, permitting her passage. Nnenna's heart raced. The presence of the guardian felt like both warning and blessing. She realized that humility, courage, and respect were as important as bravery. The spirits would not tolerate arrogance or recklessness. The faint footprints pulsed urgently, leading her deeper into the forest, signaling that the shrine was near and the final tests of the journey were beginning. Above, the fireflies formed intricate, swirling patterns in the shape of a protective circle. Nnenna stepped forward, grateful for the guidance, yet aware that the forest would continue testing her resolve until she reached Nkum Hill. The stakes had never felt higher. Without warning, a darker, more menacing shadow darted from behind the trees, lunging toward the necklace. Nnenna stumbled backward, clutching it tightly as the shadow hissed, mist curling like smoke around its form. Her heart pounded in her chest. The forest seemed to hold its breath. She darted forward, narrowly avoiding the grasp of the malevolent spirit. The faint footsteps pulsed urgently, their light intensifying as if urging her on. Every branch and root became a potential hazard as she scrambled over them, her small hands and feet finding purchase wherever they could. The shadow lurked behind, relentless, testing her courage and focus. Finally, she reached a point where the hill's incline became visible. The silhouette of Nkum Hill rose above the mist, its shrine partially visible, cracked and covered in vines. Relief mingled with fear. The malevolent shadow vanished into the darkness, leaving only a whisper. "You cannot escape! What awaits?" Nnenna's grip on the necklace tightened. The climax of her journey was just ahead. At last, Nnenna reached the shrine atop Nkum Hill. The ancient stones were cracked, overgrown with thick vines, yet traces of glowing markings from generations past still shone faintly in the moonlight. The Kaura necklace seemed to hum in her hands, resonating with the patterns carved into the shrine. A cold wind swept through the hilltop, rustling leaves and carrying whispers from centuries past. Shadows of long-lost children danced at the edges of the clearing, watching her every move. Nnenna stepped carefully, placing the necklace on the sacred stone at the shrine center. The ground trembled, faint sparks rising into the night sky. Mist swirled around her feet, and from the haze, a childlike silhouette slowly emerged. Adi's spirit, at last partially visible. Nnenna's heart raced, realizing that the path she had walked, the tests she had endured, had all led to this pivotal moment. The whispers intensified, echoing a warning. The final truth was about to be revealed, and everything she had faced was only the beginning. Nnenna's hands trembled as she gently placed the Kaura necklace upon the stone altar of Nkum Hill. The moment her fingers released it, the ground beneath her quivered softly, and faint sparks of golden light rose toward the sky. Mist swirled around the shrine, forming the faint silhouette of a child whose legs had never touched the ground. Adi's spirit appeared, fragile yet glowing, her expression unreadable. Nnenna realized that the necklace carried the weight of a centuries-old curse, connecting her directly to the restless child. The forest around her seemed to lean closer, as if listening for the next move. For the first time, she understood the stakes. Failure meant more than fear. It meant trapping the spirits forever. A whisper floated on the wind. "Do you dare finish what generations feared to attempt?" Nnenna's breath caught. She looked at the glowing footprints that led to the shrine. They pulsed urgently, urging her to act with humility, courage, and clarity. The night held its breath, waiting for her decision. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, it seemed the spirits had accepted the offering. Adi's figure softened, footsteps fading as sparks drifted gently into the air. Nnenna exhaled in relief, feeling the first twinges of triumph in her chest. The forest itself seemed to relax, the wind sighing through the trees. But a faint echo rippled through the clearing, distant and cold. The truth has only begun to awaken. Nnenna's relief vanished. Something lingered, unseen in the shadows. The villagers far below the hill remained oblivious to the danger that had followed her, and she realized the curse was not entirely lifted. The mist shifted, revealing faint, glowing footprints pointing not just at the shrine, but toward the village itself. Nnenna's heart quickened. The journey was not yet over. The night had only allowed a false sense of safety, and the forest's whispers reminded her that ancient curses demand complete reckoning. Down the hill, the village shrine glowed faintly under the moonlight. Nnenna's gaze narrowed as she noticed unusual glimmers around the elders' statues. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, forming humanoid shapes among the villagers who laughed and prepared for their nightly celebration. A chill ran down Nnenna's spine. The curse had never left. It had only shifted, seeking to spread silently. She could see faint silhouettes of restless spirits moving closer to unsuspecting children. The villagers, blind to the signs, carried on in their merriment, unaware of the danger lurking among them. Nnenna gripped the necklace, realizing that her task was far from finished. The footsteps had guided her to the shrine, but now they seemed to demand action in the village itself. She whispered to herself, "If only they could see what I see, if only they knew." The glowing footprints pulsed toward the settlement, urging her to intervene before tragedy struck. Nnenna raced toward the village, her heart pounding with urgency. She tried to warn the elders, to explain the glowing shadows and restless spirits, but her cries were drowned by the laughter and chatter of the villagers. They dismissed her warnings as childish superstition. Through the chaos, Nnenna noticed a shadow forming near one of the children, moving independently, almost deliberate. She ran, placing herself between the spirit and the child, clutching the necklace like a shield. The air around her grew thick with tension, whispers rising into a crescendo as the unseen spirits tested her courage. The villagers remained oblivious, leaving Nnenna alone in her confrontation. She could feel the weight of generations pressing on her, reminding her that courage and quick thinking would be the only way to protect her people. One of the shadows lunged, her pulse spiked. The night was far from over. The mist swirled violently around the village shrine as Adi's spirit emerged fully from the shadows. Golden light clashed with darkness, illuminating the true scope of the curse. The prosperity and safety of Umu-Ala had been built atop a forgotten betrayal, an ancestral wrongdoing that had trapped spirits for centuries. Nnenna's breath caught. The footprints pulsed urgently, forming intricate patterns that revealed not only Adi's plight, but also the hidden sins of the elders. The village's safety, the resting of the lost spirits, and even her own family's fate depended on her understanding this revelation and acting quickly. A whisper floated on the wind, stronger and clearer than ever. The footsteps will not cease until justice is complete. Nnenna clutched the Kaura necklace, her determination hardening. She understood that humility, courage, and truth would guide her final actions, and that the climax of her journey was approaching. The night held its breath, ready for the reckoning to come. Nnenna returned to Nkum Hill, the Kaura necklace glowing softly in her hands. The wind had shifted. The forest was alive with whispers and shadows, swirling like smoke around her. Adi's spirit hovered ahead, golden yet fragile, the malevolent dark spirits circling her protectively. The air crackled as the footprints pulsed rapidly, forming patterns around Nnenna. Every step she took felt heavy with centuries of expectation. The forest seemed to bend toward her, urging her forward while testing her courage. She could feel the malevolent shadows probing, waiting for a misstep. The villagers, unaware, slept far below, their celebrations continuing under the moonlight. Nnenna whispered, "If only they knew, if only they understood." Her heart pounded as the forest leaned closer, the night holding its breath. The confrontation was no longer a choice, it was destiny. As Nnenna approached the shrine, Adi's figure solidified, her gaze penetrating yet longing. The malevolent shadows paused, seemingly awaiting her command. Nnenna knelt before the shrine, holding the necklace aloft, feeling the weight of generations pressing down. Whispers filled the air, repeating old warnings and regrets. Adi's voice, soft yet echoing through the mist, spoke. The footsteps that were lost can only walk freely if truth is embraced. Nnenna realized that the curse was tied not only to the necklace, but to the village's hidden sins. A sudden surge of dark energy tried to pull the necklace from her grasp, but Nnenna's courage held firm. She whispered apologies for Adiz and for the generations who had failed. The first sparks of golden light began to clash with the swirling shadows, signaling that the final reckoning had begun. Golden light erupted from the shrine, spilling into the trees and mist. The lost child spirits began to materialize, faint but distinct, their faces reflecting centuries of sorrow. The malevolent shadows hissed, recoiling from the radiant energy. Nnenna felt the cowrie necklace warm in her hands, its hum resonating with the forest itself. Footsteps began appearing naturally in the soil, faint at first, then brighter as more spirits stepped forward. The forest and the hill seemed alive, responding to her courage and humility. The shadows tried to regroup, swirling aggressively, but Nnenna's resolve did not falter. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, speaking truths about the village's hidden transgressions. Every word strengthened the golden light, driving the dark energy back. The climax of centuries of wandering was at hand. The hill shook softly as the golden light intensified. Adiz's spirit stepped closer to Nnenna, placing her hands gently on the cowrie necklace. "Thank you," she whispered. "The footsteps can now walk freely." One by one, the restless spirits faded into the golden light, their footsteps imprinting on the soil, glowing briefly before vanishing. The forest exhaled, the wind softening as peace settled over Umu Hill. The malevolent shadows, defeated, dissipated entirely, leaving only faint mist as a memory. Nnenna stood alone, exhausted yet triumphant. The necklace's glow dimmed, now resting safely on the altar. She could feel the village below, still unaware, but for the first time in centuries, the balance between the living and the spirits had been restored. At dawn, Nnenna descended Umu Hill. The village awoke to soft golden light bathing the red soil, the first footprints of the freed spirits faintly visible in the earth. Villagers noticed the unusual calm and subtle glow, eyes widening in awe as Nnenna appeared, triumphant yet humble. The elders murmured among themselves, sensing a shift they could not fully explain. Children ran through the village, finding faint sparks of golden light following their steps. Nnenna understood that the curse had ended, but the lesson endured. Humility, courage, and respect for the unseen were vital. She whispered softly to herself, "If only they knew, if only they understood the weight of what has passed." The village, bathed in morning light, seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief, the forest behind them whispering ancient gratitude. Nnenna had fulfilled her destiny. Peace had returned, and the lost footsteps could finally walk freely. Nnenna lingered at the shrine, watching the golden light settle across Umu Hill. The cowrie necklace pulsed one last time, as if acknowledging her courage. The remaining faint silhouettes of child spirits stepped onto the soil, their footsteps glowing for the first time naturally. The forest seemed to exhale, branches bowing lightly, and the distant village drums echoed in steady, encouraging rhythm. Even the air felt lighter, carrying whispers of gratitude from generations past. Nnenna realized that the path she had walked, through fear, temptation, and shadows, had become a bridge between the living and the unseen. Yet a final shimmer caught her eye, a faint, dark shadow lingering at the edge of the clearing, testing her resolve. Nnenna whispered, "If only they knew what it cost to restore balance." With a deep breath, she stepped forward, letting the light overcome the darkness, and the last trace of malevolence dissolved. A figure materialized in front of Nnenna, luminous and calm. Adiz's spirit, unlike the restless child she had first seen. Now her glow was steady, warm, and untroubled. She knelt beside Nnenna, placing her small hands atop hers. "Thank you," Adiz whispered. "You have done what no one before dared. My footsteps are free at last." The golden glow expanded around them, illuminating the shrine, the trees, and the hilltop in a warm, ethereal radiance. Nnenna felt the weight of centuries lift from her shoulders. In Adi's eyes, she saw relief, forgiveness, and the gentle acknowledgement of courage tested and proven. The necklace now rested inert on the altar, its purpose fulfilled. Nnenna understood that her bravery had restored harmony between the worlds of the living and the spirits. Descending Umu Hill, Nnenna noticed subtle transformations in Umu-Ala. The red soil shimmered faintly in the morning light. The children's laughter carried hints of the freed spirit's presence. Villagers paused mid-step, sensing an unseen shift, a balance restored. The elders exchanged quiet glances, unable to articulate the change, yet recognizing that something ancient had shifted. Faint golden footprints traced through the village, visible only to those willing to see. Nnenna smiled quietly, knowing that while most would never fully comprehend, her courage had preserved the village's future. She whispered to herself, if only they knew what walking humbly and bravely can accomplish. The forest behind Umu Hill rustled softly, leaves brushing together in approval, a final confirmation that the spirits were at peace. The last spirit, Adi's, stepped fully onto the soil and began to walk. Her footsteps glowed faintly, then strengthened, moving naturally for the first time in centuries. A warm, golden light enveloped her, and she vanished gracefully, leaving the hill bathed in soft radiance. Nnenna understood the true revelation. The curse had never been solely about punishment. It was about restoring respect for the unseen, honoring humility, and bridging the gap between the living and the lost. Every test she had endured, the shadow attacks, whispers, temptation, and fear, had been preparing her for this precise act. The final sparkle of golden light lingered on Umu Hill, illuminating the Kara necklace one last time before it faded into stillness. Nnenna's heart swelled with a quiet satisfaction. The lesson was clear. Courage tempered by humility could heal even the oldest wounds. Back in the village, Nnenna's presence radiated a calm authority. The villagers regarded her with awe, sensing that something ancient and powerful had shifted. Children ran past, their footsteps now brushing faint sparks of golden light over the red soil. The spirit's presence a gentle reminder of what had been restored. Nnenna reflected silently. If only they knew the weight of what has passed, the courage required to walk where others feared. Elders began telling a new proverb, spoken softly to the young. The spirit world rewards the child who walks with humility. The forest behind Umu Hill whispered in gratitude, the wind carrying the echoes of centuries of trapped footsteps, finally free. Nnenna looked at the distant shrine, the golden light fading into morning mist, knowing she had bridged the worlds, restored balance, and honored the courage required to face the unknown. The village of Umu-Ala would never forget that night, not in full understanding, but in the quiet sense that some children were destined to walk paths older than memory itself.
And that is today's tale from Folktales by Peta, a place where every story carries a lesson, every shadow has a voice, and no journey ends without wisdom. If this story stirred your spirit, remember to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss the next Friday's adventure into the world of tricksters, spirits, and the mysteries that shape our lives. Thank you for listening. Until next week, travel safely. The night still watches.